All right, welcome back to the District 2 Sports Podcast. Have a very special guest lined up today, a man with nearly 30 years of coaching experience, including his current head coaching tenure since 2004 at Randolph Macon College in Ashland, where he boasts a 147 and 71 record, along with 9 ODAC championships and 6 NCAA D3 appearances. Introducing Coach Pedro Arruza. Coach, how are you doing today?
Doing well.
Awesome, awesome. And coach, I want to add too, uh, just from last year, you guys are 2-0 with the District 2 Sports Pod in attendance. We did 2 Sights and Sounds videos, one at Washington and Lee and one at Hampton Sydney. So I think we're your good luck charm.
That's good to hear. I'll give you guys a list of games that you can come to this year.
Good.
Well, Coach, first thing I want to ask you though is, you guys are preseason ranked number 21, I think, in the country for D3. Do you embrace that in the locker room, or do you see that as rat poison? Don't you try not to talk about it, or just something you embrace with the players?
I I mean I didn't know we were ranked 21. I knew we were ranked ranked somewhere, but hasn't come up once in our staff meetings, hasn't come up once in a team meeting. I think that, we reported a camp on Monday. We open up on a Friday against Dickinson, and we've got a lot of work ahead of us. So, last year was last year, the year before last year was the year before last year, and I can't say that we've spent a lot of time focusing on that. So, a lot of good teams coming back in our league. A lot of teams have done a great job. A lot of programs of recruiting some good players, and there are going to be a lot of tough games on our schedule. So I think we have enough to worry about with that.
Coach, you have to correct me if I'm wrong. I think you started there. Is it 2004 there, Randolph Macon?
2004.
I want to ask you. I think you won your first conference championship, and you correct me as we go on, in 2008, and you won your second one 8 years later in 2016.
Yep.
But since 2016, I think you guys have won 6 of the last 9. So, was there a coaching philosophy change during that first 8 years to the second 8 years, or is it just more buy-in from the players or coaches or just recruiting? What was the change there?
Yeah, well, I mean, it always starts with the players, and the better the players, the more success you're going to have. So I do think that there was an uptick in our talent. I think that we were able to get a little bit of help with staff. We were really understaffed when I got here, and I think that definitely had a part and a role in some of the struggles early on. But I think we've had a philosophy, we've stuck with that philosophy, and I think that no matter where you are, if you do that and you get good people in the program, and we've hired good assistant coaches, and recruited some great young men, and so I think that's given us a chance.
I want to ask you about Randolph Macon in general. It seems like every sports team is doing really well. Making postseason. Baseball, basketball, football, of course. What has the athletic department done for you as far as support and that fan base you guys have there that travel around and follow you guys everywhere?
Well, I mean, I think it's a great location. I think we've got a storied tradition here with a lot of our programs. Our basketball programs had a great history. They've been to the Final Four before. They've won a national championship. Our baseball programs had a lot of success. Our women's volleyball program has been outstanding. Women's softball's been really good. Women's basketball with Coach Carol LaHaye had a great tradition, and she did a great job with that program. And so, when I came here, football was struggling a little bit, but also had a great tradition. And I remember talking to Mike Clark about that, who at the time was the head coach at Bridgewater. We weren't good, but we did have a tradition to build upon, and there was a lot of pride in the program. And I think that our alumni are very proud alumni, and they experienced a lot of success when they were here. And I think that the expectations are high here. People expect you to do well here. There's a high standard and a high level of expectation, and it's a great place. Great location, great people, and a lot of things are in place here to be successful.
Coach, I apologize. I ran the steps on the stadium before I came on. I
No
apologize for
problem.
being late. I'm with my mom at physical therapy. She had a knee replacement, but I wanted to get in maybe a comment, maybe not necessarily a question, but we were able to attend the game last year with Hampton Sydney, and what a spectacle it really was. I'd heard all about it, never had been to that game, and just a true football game, true football atmosphere for one thing. And then the other thing I was going to say was, your team actually won the championship that day. But, the thing I was so impressed with was the poise that team played with that day. And it just seemed to, I made a comment the other night on one of our other podcasts that a really good team takes the personality or the traits of their coach. And I really feel like your team follows in your footsteps. And I think that's the key to your success in a lot of ways.
Well, I appreciate that. I think we have great kids here. And I think that's, whether it's Nick Saban at Alabama, and obviously he's had way more success than we have and I have, but, even the best coaches, that have had the most success, they know that it all comes down to the players. You've got to have great players and kids that buy in. And, I think when you look at a place like Randolph Macon, you're able to recruit those kinds of players and those kinds of young men to the program. So, I mean, we had a 3.3 team GPA in the spring, over 90 guys over a 3.0, top 10 guys. I think we had, close to 15 guys over a 3.9 GPA. And this is not an easy school either. I mean, this is a tough, challenging school. The professors have a high expectation in the classroom, and we embrace that. So,
Well, I just want to let you know we haven't got the date down yet. I'm sure you guys do, but we're going to make that trip to Randolph Macon this year so we can see the game again. So
awesome.
we're looking forward to it. But I
Appreciate
can't thank
it.
you enough for all your time and everything. And if I duck out, it's because I'm taking her home. So I just wanted to let you know I don't mean any disrespect whatsoever.
No. That's okay. We all have a ton of stuff going on. It's camp. So I've been up since I told one of the guys I woke up at 2:30 and never went back to sleep.
Wow.
So
Well, we look
hard
forward
to
to
sleep
seeing
during camp.
we look forward to seeing you play again this year, and we look forward to Randolph Macon pull it out in the national title this year. Okay.
Hope so.
That rat poison. Now, Coach, I want to ask you. I mean, you played on the running back. You were a two-time All-American there at Wheaton College. Set some records there. I think they just recently got broken. But you've also been on the defensive side of the ball as well as a defensive coordinator. So, has been in the playbook on both sides of the ball, on offense and defense, kind of helped you as a head coach, kind of pay attention to both sides while you're in the games.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's been a huge, huge benefit. I think it's important to, when you're a head coach to have, knowledge of, really everything that's going on in the program. And, again, we hire good coaches and let them coach. But, it's been very helpful just, in terms of games management and, knowing how to manage a game and knowing how the pieces, fit together. A lot of people talk about playing complementary football and they talk about, playing as a team. I think that's probably the biggest challenge in the game of football. A lot of us have rosters that exceed, 125, 130 guys. You've got a big staff, people in this profession, and players have egos, and trying to get everybody pulling in the same direction it's a tremendous challenge. And so I think when you have an understanding of, both sides of the ball and how the parts fit together, and what it's like to be a defensive coordinator and have a really bad day, where the offense, performs really well. And, the flip side can also be true where, you're the defensive coordinator and you have a great day and, maybe the other side didn't perform as well. I think it's important to remember that it's a team game, and, having that perspective is maybe a little bit easier to have when you've been on both sides of it. So, it's like anything else, right? Like, I'm 51 years old now. I officially an empty nester. Our youngest is actually a freshman here at Randolph Macon. And I told one of my former players who stopped by for lunch yesterday that my perspective has changed drastically over the course of the years. And, you make mistakes as a parent, you make mistakes as a coach. And I think the more you experience the better you're able to do it. You wish you could go back and take back some of those mistakes and, maybe have some do-overs, but in life you don't get do-overs. So coaching, you don't get do-overs. And I've made a lot of mistakes over the years, and I've tried to learn from those mistakes. And hopefully I'm better now than I was last year, the year before, or certainly 10 years ago, and certainly better than in 2004 when I got hired here. I don't know how I got hired. I think that things must have been in a pretty bad spot, because the 30-year-old version of me could not come here now and get this job. That's for sure.
Coach, I'm gonna throw in one thing, and I'll let the youngins ask you some more questions. But the thing that impresses me, and I wanted to get your feedback on it. I'm an Averett grad. I didn't specify that earlier. So I've seen a few teams come into the Cougar Den, I guess they call it, and but very rarely do you find, especially in D3, the following. And like maybe teams like Mountain Union, when Averett hosted them, you would see a good, bus load or two of folks following the team or something to that effect. But I really can't think of another one that did. But when we got to that game at Hampton Sydney, your your sideline was packed. I mean, and around the bowl there, I mean, it was awesome. And I just wanted to get your feeling as far as what does that mean to you for. I'm assuming this is every game that y'all go to, home and away, and what does that mean to you to have that kind of following for your program?
Well, I think it's a huge deal. And there's a couple of factors. One, when you talk about the sideline, we took all of our players to Hampton Sydney. So we took 3 busloads of players. It's a big game, and it's an experience that hopefully they'll never be able to forget. And so we wanted them all to be a part of that. And I think that we really try to emphasize in our program, we had 134 guys report to camp. And my feeling is that if you put on a Randolph Macon football jersey and you're out there, busting your tail at practice, and you're in meetings every day, and, you're getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning, then, we're going to value you, because you're doing something to help make the program better. And, hopefully that's happening in every program across America, because I think football's a tremendous game, and man, it's the greatest game, and such a tremendous benefit for young men that play it. But I think it starts with that. I think our kids are really invested, and sometimes we can't take everybody, but when we go to Averett and we play at Averett, I can promise you we've got a group of guys that stays behind, and they all get together and they watch the game online. And our parents are really invested in the program, and our alumni are really invested in the program, and they care a lot about the program and the success of the program, and they understand that there's a bigger picture, right? We're in the business of not just trying to win football games, but educate young men. And I still think it's a big deal, even in this NIL era, that kids go to school and get an education. And I think it's a big deal that when you have a football program, you try to invest in those young men and help make them better husbands and fathers, and better human beings. And the football part is great. We recruit guys that love football, and we work our tails off when it comes to football, and we make no apologies for trying to be the best that we can be at football. But if we're not doing those other things, then how many games we win, or how many championships we have, or how many fans we have following us at the games, none of that stuff's really going to matter. But I think it is a big deal to have that kind of support, and I think it means a lot to our players. And it's a great place to coach, and a great place to go play football.
Coach, I know you said that last year is last year, but I did want to just do a quick review of last year. You guys go 10-2, make it to the round of 16. But beginning of the year, you guys start off with a win against Dickinson, and then you have a 3-game stretch. Maybe you guys are trying to figure some things out. You have an overtime win against Hobart, the loss against Berry, and a close one against Shenandoah, who I think has really improved over the last couple of years. But I just want to get your thoughts on those 3 games, and then of course you guys kind of roll after that, kind of figured some things out. We were there for that Washington Lee game. Devin was in attendance. We saw that game, and then we saw the game. But want to get your thoughts on last year's schedule and how the team is moving forward to this year in the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, it was a challenging schedule to start out the year. I mean, I don't think that Dickinson's a good football team. They play in a good league. They've taken Johns Hopkins to the wire. The last a couple times in the last few years. They're well coached. They recruit good players. Hobart, man, I thought they were one of the most underrated teams in the country. I thought their defense was one of the best defenses that we've seen in a long time. Barry is a great program. I think Tony Konchesky does a tremendous job. And, we knew that was going to be a tough game. And we had a chance to win it, but so did they, and I mean, they played hard and, they're well coached. And so we knew those 3 games were going to be tough. And then we opened up with a tough Shenandoah team. I mean, I think that staff does a good job, and a lot of people in our league do a great job. I think the coaches of Bridgewater do a good job. I think that Washington and Lee's always extremely well coached. I mean, that's always a battle, and the same can be said about pretty much every team in our league. They're all well coached. They all have different niches and different things that they can recruit to. And so, yeah, we were definitely figuring some things out, but we also, lost 17 fifth-year seniors from the year before, had to replace our quarterback and some outstanding players. And so, you're figuring things out every year. So hopefully this year we'll figure them out a little bit earlier.
And Coach, speaking of replacing guys from last year, Clark and Cassiola, 2 of your leading rushers from last year's team, including the quarterback, of course. Talk about what those guys meant to the success of the team last year, and who are some guys who can kind of step up for you guys this year in their place.
Yeah, so Dante will be back. He's a 5th-year senior. He had an extra year of eligibility. Kwesi, great human being. I mean, can't say enough about him as a leader and as a person. So we'll certainly miss him. Brandon Evans was another guy at DB that, played really well for us. Tony Skinner, Colton Payne, we had probably our 2 most impactful players on defense were, Wade Grubbs and Pedro Arruza on the defensive line. Those guys were, outstanding. And, it all starts up front, especially in our program. So we've got our work cut out for us. I mean, we've got a lot of guys that we need to replace. We also have some good players coming back, and, some areas that, we identified, during the season and after the season as areas that we needed to improve in. And we're certainly working to do that. But, we've got a lot of tough games ahead. And, I'm sure everybody in the league is going to be gunning for us. And, a lot of those teams are going to be, much improved. And so, we're moving forward with humble hearts.
Coach, speaking of the schedule here, you play Dickinson again at home this year. And then you go to Central, I think, there in Iowa. So you talk about those 2 out of conference games. And then you guys play 8 games this year in conference with the addition of Gallaudet and Roanoke playing football. So if you can call out the conference as well, what you're expecting. I think you guys get Hampton-Sydney and Shenandoah. And I think, Washington Lee all at home too. So you got some good home games there. But you do go to Bridgewater, so you can talk about those games too.
Yeah, like I said, they're gonna be tough games. It's gonna be a tough stretch. I mean, Central's a great program. I've got a lot of respect for Jeff McMartin and the way he runs that program, and they've had a lot of success over the years. Tough. That's going to be a tough game. We've got to fly out there. I think we fly in on a Friday night at 8:30. We've got to take a connecting flight. We're going to get back here on Sunday afternoon, and then we've got to get ready for the league schedule. So, it's going to be a tough stretch. Like I said, right now, try not to look too far ahead. We had practice this morning. We've got lifting and meetings in the afternoon, and right now I'm really just focused on that part of it.
Just a quick question. I mean, do you prefer to have 8 conference games and where it takes away one of those out of conference, or do you enjoy having those 3 out of conference you could schedule?
Yeah, I like that, the schedule last year was great because we played three really good teams out of conference. But the flip side of that, with all the conference realignments, it's getting tougher and tougher to find games. So that part does make it a little bit easier when you have eight teams on your conference schedule. So, I'm good with it either way. I just want to be able to play 10 games against good opponents and have, challenging games, in the conference and out of conference because, that's what makes it fun.
Coach, last one for me, and I'll let these other guys ask if see if they have any more. But what is a successful season for Coach Arruza and the Randolph Macon Yellow Jackets?
Well, I think that's pretty simple. I tell the guys, at the beginning of every year, our goal is to be the very best football team that we can be. Okay. And to max it out. So, that means winning an ODAC championship, then, that means winning an ODAC championship. But, I played for a tremendous man at Wheaton College, J.R. Bishop, and coach passed away a couple of years ago. And I took his coaching football class when I was a sophomore. And Coach Bishop said the job of the head coach is to take the available material and be as good and win as many games as you can possibly win. And so that's, when I get to the end of the year, I'm not looking at the schedule and saying, well, we need to win this one and this one. We need to go this far in the playoffs if we're fortunate enough to get to that spot. I'm looking at it and saying, when I get to the end of the year, did I feel like we did the absolute most that we could do with the young men that we have in the program? And if we've done that and, those guys have a tremendous experience, then I think we're going to be in good shape, but I say it every year, if you win games, and it's hard to do it, this way anyways, but if you win games and you don't have, kids that are bought in and they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing off the field and in the classroom, then it doesn't really matter, right? I mean, again, we're in this for more than just winning the games, and we try to focus a little bit more on, hey, these are the things that we need to focus upon, and if we focus on those things, then winning is going to be a byproduct of doing those things.
Coach, I just wanted to let you know that those two young guys above me, they do a really good job of recruitment and helping. We took on this podcast to I don't know if everybody has a mission statement as far as a podcast is concerned, but we wanted to help the South Side athletes be recognized. And what I'm getting at is I don't know what your belt is as far as recruiting and how far out you go and this, that, and the other, but let me tell you something. We do recognize talent when we see it. So if we can be of any assistance, to someone that maybe you're looking at, or maybe we can send you a recruiting board and let you know what we've seen across the state. Our viewing area has grown, has actually increased. So if we can help you out in any way possible, please let us know. We'll be more than happy to help.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, any names you can send our way, and like I said, we're always recruiting. We're always trying to get better.
Well, Coach, we do appreciate it. I know you have a busy day ahead of you. Or Devin had a question. No, okay, good.
You
Hey,
sure?
we know you're busy. Are you sure? You are good at it now. But we know you're busy getting ready for camp there. We do appreciate your time. I know you're looking for your fourth consecutive ODAC championship, and we wish you all the luck this year, Coach.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate what you guys do.
Thank you, Coach, and we look forward to seeing
Thank
you
you,
hopefully
Coach.
at one of these games and talking to you after on the field after.
Yeah, coming up and find me.
All right,
See you
thanks,
soon,
Coach.
Coach.
All right, take care, guys.
Thank you.
You bet.